Hi, welcome. So this first video of a series of 3 videos is going to walk you through how to successfully set up your classroom for literature circles. So before we delve into what a literature circle is, how to get the kids ready and participating in it, the key is you need to first work to set up your classroom. So this video is going to take you through how to set up your classroom so that these literature circles can run smoothly and as best as humanly possible. So you're going to learn from my mistakes. The first thing, and I think quite honestly the most important thing that you need, is to consider how to set up your desks. They obviously need to be in groups, but the way in which you put the kids in groups is also very meaningful. And what I've found is this picture is a really good idea of how to set up your groups. You'll notice that there's a little storage container in the middle of the desks, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. But I've found that this is the most meaningful and beneficial way to set up these desks. You want them a little bit spaced apart. You want them so that the kids aren't all facing the same way, that they do have the groups have their backs to each other, so it's a little bit harder to talk between groups. And I've also found that having 5 desks, 4 desks, those are the good magic numbers. 4 is amazing, but it's not always doable. So I usually try to stick to around 5 kids. So that's the first part of this whole literature circle concept, is setting up your desks in a way that is meaningful and purposeful. And then you're going to want to go to these bins. So like in that picture you saw, the bins were sitting in between, which is a really great and beneficial way to do it. I've had it where there's 5 desks and it kind of sits on the corner or it sits on a side. It doesn't have to necessarily be right in the middle, but these bins will become your lifesaver. The first year that I had done literature circles, I didn't have the bins at every desk. And I truly regretted it the year after when I had got them. I'm not sure how I lived without them. I was finding that a lot of kids were getting out of their seats. Multiple kids from the same group were getting out of their seat to go sharpen their pencil or go get a piece of paper. And the true and tried reason for literature circles is that these kids are discussing and they're talking with one another, and it's distracting when a kid has to get up to sharpen their pencil or to go get a highlighter or to go get school supplies. So I found that if you get a bin like this or a milk crate or something that can store materials and leave it next to the desk, that honestly works best. What I have done is I've found that the 3-drawer bin works best. I usually keep all of the kids' binders or folders in the bottom drawer because I teach 5 classes, so 5 different groups of kids have to share this bin. So if you leave everything material-wise, like the binder or the folder at the bottom, it ends up working better, and then you can use those top 2 drawers for paper, mechanical pencil sharpeners, those handheld pencil sharpeners. You can put paper, lined paper, computer paper, highlighters, anything you need or can think of. Post-it notes, which I didn't put on this little screen here, but post-it notes are definitely good to put in there. Anything that you think these kids are going to need or that you want them to be using, keep it in the bin so that they're not getting out of your seat. You're going to find that the kids are more engaged and they're more involved since they don't have to worry about getting up out of their seats. The next thing is, like I said, at that bottom drawer, I always store the binders. So what I have found is that each literature group gets a binder, and in that binder are all the necessary materials that they are going to need for that day's literature group, whether it is the roles for the week, their individual reflection sheets, any assignments that I want them to work on as a group, blank sheets of paper for the next week, and then the housekeeping stuff like the guidelines for literature circles, the role and order of operations, anything that they need to turn in. What I've found is that binder stays pretty neat. If the kids put everything in one place and everything stays in that binder, they're pretty good about not losing any materials, making sure that it stays where it is. And then again, all they have to do is put it in that bottom bin drawer and nothing gets lost, nothing gets taken away, everything is nice and organized. So the key to this whole setup is that so everything is organized, nothing gets lost, and it starts to run like a well-oiled machine. And this light definitely helps with getting the kids focusing on routines and staying with what they need to be doing. I found that Groups are going to finish at different points, and I always want to check in with the kids. I think it's really important that at the end of every literature circle, you check in with them, you see how they did, see how the group worked together, any questions or confusions they had, or just transitioning them into, okay, this is what they need to be working on now that they're done with their literature circle. So I found that a bunch of kids would start raising their hand saying, I'm done, I'm done. What do we do? What do we do? So in order to cut down on that unnecessary calling out, I found that these little lights, the little battery operated LED lights, if you give each group one of them, all they have to do is just turn it on when they're done, and they leave it on their desk. I gave one desk a little Velcro, put it on the desk. Once they turned it on, that's how I visually saw that a group was finished and that I needed to go over to them. And part of this is you need to make sure that the kids know what they need to do when they're done or while they're waiting for you to come in and check in with them. But I did find that this cuts down on a lot of the unnecessary shouting out. And that leads me to my last two suggestions is if for any reason you have an assignment for the kids and you want them to finish it in a specific time period, I found that putting a timer on the smart board, if you have the ability to have a smart board and do it visually, that really works best, because then the kids aren't asking you, how much time do you have left? How much time do we have to finish this? If you just have a countdown timer, then they can see it and they know exactly what they need to do and how much time they have. And also with that, visibly post what the kids need to do. It's great that you keep it in a binder. They're not always going to look at it. They're going to forget. So if you put it in a certain place, this is what you need to do, this is what the order in which you need to do it, then they can just look over, glance over, remind themselves what they need to be doing and in what order. So I hope that helps. Check out the second video, as it's going to tell you the really beginner lessons as to introduce the kids into literature circles, so that you can really get started on this.